What's something that happens after you give birth that people don't tell you about? Before we start with the first story, please hit subscribe and ring the notification bell to stay updated with us. Story 1. Your nurses have to check the location and firmness of your uterus at different intervals for the remainder of your hospital stay. This can be extremely uncomfortable, and if your uterus isn't firm, they have to rub it to get it to tone up to decrease your risk of bleeding. You can have severe muscle aches all over your body. You've just run a marathon and your body is going to hurt. Your baby can puke up amniotic fluid and sometimes even dried blood, which looks like brown, icky smelling bubbles. And all of a sudden, your breasts become a central topic of speculation and conversation for your nurse, doctor, and your partner. Story 2. The first blowout. Within the first couple of weeks, the baby just let loose and baby crap basically exploded everywhere. It was absolutely a two-person cleanup as one took the baby and the other took everything he hit. Also, one tiny little droplet of blood from a razor-sharp fingernail nick will fill a baby's entire nostril, making a new sleep-deprived mom suspect a brain bleed. Story 3. I was not prepared for how painful my milk coming in would be. I just pushed a kid out my vagina after 4 days of labor and 3 hours of pushing. I thought I'd been through it all and was mostly done. Then my milk came in. Oh my God. Having your boobs go up several cup sizes rapidly is not comfortable at all. I had a really hard time with it and nursing. My kid nursed great, actually. I hated it. I'm sorry. After you get over the milk coming in pain, your nipples start chafing and bleeding from it all. It was like constant boob torture, but I remember being so shocked at how painful that was at first. Story 4. At some point, with no real training or any kind of test, they just leave you alone with the baby. You have to figure everything out. When to feed them, how many layers to dress them in, where to put them when they are sleeping, what to do when they aren't sleeping and you need to poop. There is no manual that matches your personality and the baby's. What works for one parent-baby combo won't necessarily work for a different combo, and there will be people who refuse to accept that. I sleep trained and it was magic. I breastfed them until they were 6. We only feed 100 organic food that was produced within 100 kilometers of our house. We just said no, and that was it. Story 5. Breastfeeding a newborn is incredibly difficult, and there's no amount of research that can prepare you for it. Their tiny mouths chafe out of your nipples. You can end up feeding them for 40 minutes out of every 2 hours, which means sleeping an hour at a time at most. It's physically challenging to position a tiny rag doll to hold on and drink. You can get an infection called mastitis that temporarily dries up your milk and is excruciatingly painful with a raging fever. And that's all assuming you have good supply and your baby is able to latch. And I had an easy time breastfeeding. Did it for a year and a half. I had always heard breastfeeding is hard, but even after I took 2 courses and read several books on the subject, I still couldn't understand what I was missing until I actually had the baby in my arms and a nurse shoving my titty into his mouth. Story 6. Everyone is talking about the common stuff, the sleep deprivation, the lack of knowledge, the birthing process, the poop, the colic, etc. For me, there are 2 things that stick out to me after my kids were born. 1. The paternal postpartum depression. It took me about a month to climb out of it on my own, but I lost interest in a lot of things, struggled to go to work, and just wanted to sit around the house. It wasn't until a year or 2 later that someone pointed out what I went through, and that I should seek help with future kids. For kid 2 and 3rd, I was prepared, and it wasn't as bad, but it still happened. 2. The naps are the best. Skin to skin, light blanket on top, perfect excuse to just lay down on the couch or a reclining chair and watch a movie or TV. Oh, you want me to do something? Can't. Don't want to wake the baby. Some of my favorite memories from those early months of each kid was reading comic books or watching movies while I did skin to skin with the kids. To be clear, don't fall asleep yourself with a newborn. As they get bigger, it becomes a bit more okay to take a nap yourself. Story 7. Breastfeeding is not an exact science and often has crazy complications that can be debilitating. It doesn't make you less of a woman or a mom if it doesn't work out. The human body is an unstable miracle that doesn't always perform as expected. Ignore the hate you may get for it. The difficulty in breastfeeding, especially your first, is so underrated. The time consumption, the pain, the guilt, etc. I don't think any mom is truly prepared beforehand for breastfeeding. I felt guilty for years for not being able to breastfeed, and I also felt guilty for not pumping my milk for long enough. Everything I read was so focused on the breast is best message that I felt terrible for not being able to do what seemed so natural and easy. Story 8. Postpartum preeclampsia is a thing. You could be fine your entire pregnancy and then after having the baby develop it out of nowhere. Had I not have had to have an emergency C-section, baby's heart rate was plummeting, and stay that extra day in the hospital, they wouldn't have caught preeclampsia. The doctor told me it was so bad I'd have been dead. And I know myself I wouldn't have gone to the doctor because I would have thought it was just me feeling like crap after having a baby. Nope. They told me straight up I would have died in a few days. My blood pressure was so dangerously high. Ladies, keep an eye on your blood pressure after you give birth. Everything already feels weird, but keep an eye on it for a week or so at least and don't hesitate to go to the ER if something feels wrong. Bring the baby with you, they'll take care of it while they check you out. Don't die because you think you're inconveniencing someone. Story 9. The full body fatigue with all the pushing that lasts days after. Also, please don't listen to friends, family begging you to see the baby right after birth. People are crazy those first 2 weeks. Also, if you decide to BF, sometimes your milk doesn't come until 3-7 days after baby. Lanolin cream will be your BFF. As others commented, I'd recommend the Fridamum postpartum kit. The foam and the upside-down washing mister comes in so handy. Remember, mama has to be taken care of so she can take care of the baby. Instead of asking people to watch the baby, ask your village to help with dishes, lawn care, taking out the trash, vacuuming. If you have a partner helping you, ask them to make sure you have food, water. An easy changing station with wipes, diapers, rash, cream, lanolin, all the other essentials easily accessible for mom. If possible, and able to get the help, take 10 minutes to shower every day and 5 minutes to go outside and have alone time as well, rain or shine. It's so important to have time for yourself to keep your mind and body healthy. Story 10. In the event that a pregnancy does develop, the infant inherits the man's DNA permanently. Certain infant cells can cross across and enter the bloodstream of their mothers even after delivery. This is called microchimerism, leaving the woman with some fetal DNA for the rest of her life. Fetal cells also pass through the membrane of the placenta and reach the womb during pregnancy. Male fetal cells have been found in women's blood up to 27 years after delivering a son. Thus, a lady may retain her baby's father's DNA for several decades following childbirth. Story 11. Mine was that you suddenly went from being an important patient to nobody. You are nothing more than baby's feeding unit N01, baby's diapering unit N01, baby's bathing unit No 1, etc. Before the baby is born, they are interested in your body and how you are doing. After the baby is born, they treat you like a misbehaving and inconvenient accessory to your baby, and you find out that they were only interested in you because the baby was inside you. So they don't care about your pain or your dignity or your consent anymore. Can you have pain management after the massive surgery you just had? No, it can get in baby's milk. Will the nurse please leave so you can have some privacy? No, they've seen it all before and you're wasting time. I'm not comfortable with anyone touching my breasts, can you not? No, this needs to happen or breastfeeding won't work and your baby will fail to thrive. Your own recovery is secondary to baby's anything, no matter how small. And that's ridiculous. Story 12, that you're gonna level up and look people straight in the eye and advocate for your child. My only regrets are when I didn't tell my kid's R&D grade teacher to pound sand, or the ER doctor who couldn't find an infant ear scope so he shoved an adult one-eye there while my kid screamed. When the pediatrician wanted to start my kid on chemo, before the results were back because it was 5 o'clock and he wanted to go home. Almost got arrested that time. Even the security guard said, "Wait, nothing back from the lab? People suck. Other people's children suck. People will bad for your kids and now it's up to you to do the background checks. It's a whole thing. Did you know the most ferocious thing in nature is a mammal with young? Whoop, that's you now." Story 13. PPD. No one really talks about postpartum anxiety depression when you're pregnant. If you don't feel yourself, please talk to someone. Don't do what I've done and keep smiling and carry on. I'm still struggling with this 12 weeks on and denied it from day one. Purely because everyone, including my husband, kept telling me it's normal to be stressed. You have 3 children. It's not stress. Stress doesn't fill you with so much anxiety that you're physically sick and get heart palpitations before leaving the house. And it's not normal. Also, day 3. Day 3 is the worst. Your hormone levels drop dramatically. It's the biggest hormone change in the shortest time span any human experiences. It makes you feel every emotion you have, all at once, and it's awful. Story 14. A lot of the items sold for postpartum care target vaginal deliveries versus C-sections. There's almost nothing for C-section delivery postpartum care. Also, they literally remove your lower organs with a C-section. I heard bladders out and was like, the real star of the show isn't the OB but the anesthesiologist. Symptoms don't resolve after birth. I was doing my pregnant waddle walk for a little afterwards. Pelvic, girdle, PAINSPD, round ligament, whatever it's called. I am petite with a narrow pelvis, so my 9-pounder was heavy and it hurt to walk from like 14 weeks on. Get some hard candy to suck on for when your milk comes in. It's breast tenderness 10 times. L&D nurses are angels who should get paid more. They take such good care of mothers and babies. I didn't realize that there were other mothers and babies in my wing due to the check-ins and support. Personally, it is the greatest feeling ever being a mom. But I do have crushing guilt and anxiety that my baby will endure a world someday without me. Newborn stage goes quickly, so don't buy Zerominus 3-month clothes. #useless. Story 15. I'm the dad but can share some of my wife's experience. Doctors were worried the placenta was failing, so we were induced early. Baby wasn't ready, so it took 3 days of sitting around in the hospital for labor to start. At least I could stay with her during this time. What many people don't realize about inducing a baby is that the pain for the mother at the start is much higher than if labor started naturally, and that it is more distressing for both mother and child. After 9 hours, the baby hadn't budged and was starting to panic, so we had to have an emergency C-section. However, due to the stress, the doctors were worried she was going to go into cardiac arrest. So she got 30 seconds of skin to skin before I was whisked out with the baby so they could see to her. I then had 40 minutes of working out what to do with a newborn and not knowing if my wife was alive or not. Thankfully, she was okay, and we got 2 hours in the recovery room to make phone calls and enjoy our son. However, it was 11 p.m. by this point, and I'm told I have to leave as mother and child are going to the postnatal unit, which is a ward. So my wife, who has just fought for her life after a C-section and long induction, now has to spend the night on her own trying to work out what to do with a steaming newborn. She also developed a rare skin condition as a result, which meant she was on steroids for over a year after birth, on top of recovering from major surgery and having PPD and PTSD, and therefore couldn't breastfeed. We're thankful that we have a national health service, but postpartum attitudes are so archaic. If you had any major surgery, you'd be told to get bed rest for weeks, but a C-section, you're expected to be up and going within hours. All right, folks. That's a wrap. If you like more of this, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. You can also share your thoughts in the comment below. I'll see you in the next video.